Welcome to the Command Chair, brought to you by Star City Games. I'm your host, Sheldon Menery, founding member of the Commander Rules Committee. Each episode I'm joined by one of my RC colleagues as the co-host, and we break the show into two blocks. First, in the command block, we talk about the RC's high-level decisions, thought processes, or really what's just on our minds. Then in the chair block, we lean back, talk about playing the game. The cards, the decks, the tech, all the things that the RC likes to bring into the kinds of games that we like to play. This episode's co-host is fellow RC member Scott Larabee, who hasn't been on in a while. Scott, please reclaim your seat in the command chair.
Thanks, Sheldon. Hey, you know what? This chair is still uncomfortable. You ever going to fix this thing?
I think Toby suggested last week we put in cup holders.
Yes. It'd be great. Hold my coffee.
So what's new since the last time we've seen you?
Not much. Just surviving, working from home and trying to get on the other side of this thing. But I'm playing a lot more Commander than I ever have, so that's the upside.
Yeah, I think we all are, in fact.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think it's time to just slam right into the command block. Gavin and Toby have already been here on the last two episodes talking about the future of the format, so we'll close this three-part series by getting your take. How do you see the format shaping up in the near future? And I suppose the follow-up is, how does that align? How do your expectations align with what you hope for?
Well, I'd say, first a warning, there will be no spoilers.
Right.
But I would say the future looks extremely bright. I mean, Wizards of the Coast is producing more Commander-specific content than ever. Mm-hmm. And even when it isn't Commander-specific content, there are obviously still cards that are great for Commander in there. Mm-hmm. So I would say that the future is looking really, really good. And does it align with what I hope for? I think so. I mean, what I know is what I don't know.
Right.
So anything could happen, I guess, but I have no reason to expect that anything won't be more of the same. Great cards, great new mechanics, and a lot more players to play against.
Yeah, one of the anxieties that a couple of folks have expressed is that designing a lot of cards specifically for Commander creates a sort of power creep and an environment where we might be getting too much. Now, I'm not one of those people. What do you say to those folks?
To those folks, I would say that there has always been power creep in Magic. There's always been power decreep in Magic. Uh-huh. I think it goes up and down, and I think what power creep is to any one person is very subjective to the time they're in. And I would say that I'm not worried about power creep. I'm more worried about homogenization. That's where I get. If you just want to make a deck that all it does is ramp lands to some effect to win, well, you could probably do that now. I don't think you have the non-ramp cards to do that. But it's the homogenization that worries me more than anything. But I don't see it at a level that it's a problem now. And frankly, as stewards of the format, that is our problem to deal with.
Yeah, do you see the homogenization as the cause or the effect of the explosion of online information? Great sites like EDHREC or our Star City deck database.
There are two. I think there's two types of homogenization. There's homogenization of decks or of a meta. That's one thing. Mm-hmm. Then there's I think it's homogenization of mechanics and effects, where we'll go over some of my decks a little bit later in the show. But there's a few decks that I'm going to describe where I couldn't build them 3 years ago because there weren't enough of foo card in it. And now there's enough of foo card, or barely enough of foo card.
Minotaurs,
what
for
happens,
example.
I'll know that when I start when new sets are coming out, and I'm starting to delete some of my favorites because there's obviously better cards that are coming out to put in it. That's where I start to get a little worried when it comes like that. It does not happen too often. Personally, for me, I just, there comes a time when a deck gets to the point where it's either so good, I just don't enjoy playing anymore, so I don't. Sometimes it happens early. You remember my old Arkham Dagston deck
Ugh.
that I built.
Yeah, that card is miserable.
2005, because I was new to the format and I didn't know what was going on, and I'm like, hey, this looks like a fun effect. And then I built, I spent a week building the deck, and then I took it and played and won on turn 5, and I went, oh, this deck's a problem. I mean, I just didn't keep that deck around very long.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy playing it. That's not what I want to do.
Well, you won on turn 5, and nobody else was playing Magic at the same time.
Nobody else was playing Magic,
Right.
right? There was nothing they could do unless they could keep Arkham Dagston off the board.
Right.
There was nothing they could do, and sometimes you just don't have the removal until later. So, I personally will get a little tired of a deck that I'm playing just because it becomes the same old game over and over. I say that, but then I have decks that I've had since 2007, and I'm still playing them and I'm still updating them because I
Right.
still enjoy them. So I don't. So as far as things like homogenization or power creep, they don't worry. Power creep doesn't worry me because that is on you and me and Toby and Gavin to keep an eye on, and as a steward of the format in conjunction with Wizards, figure out what is a problem and try and figure that out. As far as homogenization, both of decks being too much alike, like you just feel like you keep playing the same deck all the time because of sites like EDH Rec and Star City. I don't see that as a huge problem. I mean, I use EDH Rec. I mostly use it at I've designed a deck and I've kind of got an idea of what I do, and I've got a whole bunch of cards. And I just don't feel like I want to spend the 4 hours in a search engine trying to find cards that do similar things.
Right.
And I know somebody else is building the same kind of deck, so I'll go have a peek. But I like to do most of it myself. I don't just go in and copy decks. So it's I don't see a problem there. I also I've been doing this a long time, and you've been playing Magic a long time. We've been playing Commander a long time. And every time you think that everything's about to homogenize around a certain suite of decks, Wizards will come out with a new set with a completely new and different and fun mechanic, and then suddenly everything changes. So I have great faith in my friends over in R&D to come up with new, interesting ideas for Commander. And I have even more faith in people who play Commander coming up with new and interesting decks.
Yeah,
so
I do too. Yeah, one of the things I'll use EDH Rec for is to make sure I don't play some of those cards.
I do that a bit. I mean, there are definitely times I'm going through EDH Rec on a certain deck style that I'm playing with a certain commander, and I will see that a card has an above 50% inclusion rate in decks, but I'm like, yeah, I don't want to play that card.
Right.
That's not how I want to play this deck. I crossed the line a couple times, and then maybe I'll come back and ramp it down. I know that I've put Perforos in a few decks lately that I've been playing. And every time I put it out, I hear you guys groan, and I'm like, maybe it's time to take Perforos out. Do I need Perforos in the deck? No, it's obviously more efficient, but maybe I don't need to run it.
Well, Perforos is one of those cards that is either going to kill everybody or get you killed.
Right, and it is a card we have talked about muchly in the past.
And got Perforos, get him, boys.
Yeah, that's right.
So Commander is clearly now, we've been saying this for a long time in the community that it's the most popular way to play Magic. Can we maintain this level of popularity, and do we even need to try?
I'm not even sure we need to try. I think at some point these things tend to perpetuate themselves. So, am I happy it's as popular as it ever is? Sure. I'm playing Commander 3 days a week right now. I couldn't do that 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I got to play once a quarter.
Right.
Before I got my friends at Wizards of the Coast involved back in 2005, 2006, I played every 3 months. So I think that I think things are great. I don't think there's anything we can we maintain this level of popularity? Yes. Well, let me put it this way. No, we can't maintain this level of popularity because it's only going to get more popular. So, do we even need to try to do so? I mean, I think we need to not screw it up.
Yeah, that's my thing too. So we could by trying to do too much, I think we could do more damage than Because the success vectors are really low overhead right now. So there feels like there's a lot of room underneath that we could plunge into that we don't want to go to.
I don't know what we could possibly do that would reduce the popularity such that like it would be half of what it is now. I really don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a point where we could probably make ourselves irrelevant, right? By if we just made some crazy ban list with 175 cards on it that
Sure.
made completely no sense whatsoever, people would go, "All right, they've lost their minds. We're gonna play Commander the way we want to, and whatever."
Maybe. I think it can go the other way too. If we choose to sit back and not ban cards, then play patterns may become so bad that people just don't want to play it because of that. So I think it's a balance between those two things.
Yeah, so one of the things that we talked about in the last couple episodes with Gavin and Toby was about the danger points of gripping the rudder a little too hard, and
Sure.
I think that we've all agreed. I mean, we've been doing it this way for more than a decade, and a very light touch is what we need, and the way we're going to continue to go forward.
These things will go in cycles. I mean, we've had how long has it been since we banned a card? Over a year.
Well, we
now?
banned Flash not that long ago.
Oh, that's true. We did ban Flash not long ago. Before that, I mean, the last time was right before we went to Gen Con, which I know was almost a year ago.
Yeah, was it over
ago.
a year ago now? Right?
Yeah.
Was it that the first week?
We were,
Wow.
yeah, even before the before those bans a year ago. It'd been a while before we banned a card, but I know there are times when we have banned a card, three quarters running. It's been a long time since we did that, but it was in the 2010s. So
Yeah, that period after Prophet of Krufix, I think we went 2 years before
or longer,
before anything went.
Like, yeah. It's been we had a good little run there. I think there was that was a different time for different reasons.
Sure.
We weren't, all of us were not as engaged as much as we were at that point. I know. So I know you were in school. So and Toby was moving across the country, and there were. So I wasn't playing as much back then. I didn't have a local store. I wasn't streaming, so I was only playing when I was on the road as well.
Right.
But now, I think about Commander. I mean, I spend right now in quarantine. I bet I spend half my day thinking about Commander in between other things I'm working on in the evening, working on decks, tuning up old decks, and I spend an amazing amount of time. To bring it back around, do I think that we need to do much? No, I mean, I think we need to react to issues that come up. But look, this format is it's insanely popular. It is what I like to call Magic's board game.
Yeah.
There's always some fussing in the building about how we don't have a Magic board game, and I'm like, we do have a Magic board game. It's Commander. It plays out exactly like a board game. It's social. It's it's I wouldn't say non-competitive, but it's got a very social aspect to it. It's got a very political aspect to it. It's multiplayer. You take it in turns. I mean,
Yeah. In fact,
it's got everything I look for in a board game. So I think that is pretty amazing. And just to wrap up my points on this, it's interesting because we talk. I just heard this the other day at Wizards. It's that if Commander weren't already a format, we'd have to invent it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we need something that engages people.
Yeah. They're
highly competitive.
The reason that Commander, I suspect that one of the reasons that Commander has become so popular is that it filled a void. It
did.
It was intentional. It was intentionally filling a void in the beginning. That was my theory, sort of my theory crafting in the first place. I didn't realize how large the void was. Right? I thought that I thought that we would be filling a niche, and we're filling most of the empty space.
It turns out that we're appealing to most people who play with Magic.
Yeah. The interesting point, I recently had a conversation with Jim from Spike Feeders, who's a pretty smart dude, and we were talking about sort of the nature of the format, and I said it was intentionally an anti-competitive format. He said, "Is it really anti-competitive, or is it a-competitive?" And I'm like, well, damn, Jim, that's a point. It doesn't seek to make competitive not happen. It just seeks to make itself not competitive.
Right.
And
It's a game. It's a game. All
Yep.
games, by their nature, are competitive
Sure.
on some axis. So,
Well-
is it anti-competitive? No, that's a ridiculous statement.
Yeah.
But is it a-competitive? Maybe.
I think in common colloquialism we would confuse those two terms.
Sure. I mean,
So-
I definitely, when I'm playing a game of Commander, am trying to win.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm trying to do it in a fun way,
Right.
and hopefully everybody else is too. And then, and there lies the fun,
Right.
is seeing. I'm always interested in what somebody else's deck does, and I'm always trying to solve the puzzle of, oh, they did that. Now, how am I going to change my strategy in this game in order to counter what they just did? Or can my deck even do that?
Right.
Like, am I going to sit here and then try and play politics so they get to leave me alone? Right? There's always that going on. It's like, I got to do something or I'm dead here.
Yeah, I think one of the styles, and maybe we can explore this a little more in the B block. One of the styles that I think we all four bring to the table is that we would rather our brains win the game than our cards. That we would
Yes.
instead of just plop, here's my combo, I win. If you don't stop it, it's trying to make sense of the board state, and then navigating the landmines therein to get to a victory.
Yeah. I agree completely.
All right, so that's a discussion about Commander the product a little bit, and I think we're gonna explore in some upcoming episodes the differences between Commander the format and Commander the product. Let's talk a little more about the format. You and I, if you haven't noticed, you and I are not getting any younger.
Don't know what you're talking about, old man.
We've gotten to the point where we have to be thinking about the format's leadership for the future.
Sure.
So let's offer our friends a little insight into how we're going to approach that feature. Mm-hmm. And clearly, expanding our reach is one of those things.
Yes, expanding our reach is one of those things, and one of the things that I think has helped, I won't say absolutely from a where's future leadership, but from a let's not make ourselves older than we need to be fast, was getting the CAG on board. I think the CAG has been an amazing addition because you and me and Toby and Gavin do not have to go out and hunter-gatherer all the issues. We have these amazing people that are smart, that are engaged on many different axes that bring the issues in. You've got the people that are very highly social media savvy and are out there all the time to various degrees, where I think Josh, would probably be at the top. And then you've got Olivia out there doing that, and Shivam doing that a little bit too. And then you've got kind of on a different axis, you've got like Charlotte, who can point out, rules stuff. As I like to say, I'm so glad we got Toby a buddy.
Yeah.
Can bring up things about the rules when we're having our discussions about, should we unban a card? Should we ban a card? Should we do this? Should we do that? And we've got stuff in between. And I think that has helped a lot, because, I did not, working full time and doing what I do at Wizards, where I'm on the road so much, did not have a lot of time to be out there, looking around for what's the hot issue we need to talk about next quarter. I'm very appreciative of the fact that somebody can just, hand it to me and go, here's the thing we need to talk about this quarter. And I'm like, great, let's talk.
We were in a fair number of bubbles, and there was the bubble of us together when we traveled, which was honestly for a while me, you, and Toby, because Gavin, while he was getting his PhD and stuff, kind of disconnected from the judge program a little bit, and so it would have to be when we were together at a show. So you and Toby together, me and you together, maybe the three of us together. That was our one bubble, and then of course our local play groups were another bubble.
Sure.
So we didn't. we didn't have the kind of connection to the community that we do now. And quite honestly, content creation and all the social media involvement, like the Discord channels and stuff, didn't exist then either. We had
Right.
the forums, and we had some websites that were better or worse. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that the CAG came along at a time when we could leverage people, like when we
Yes.
could find social media outlets and people who were social media capable to bring information in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the CAG. I agree completely about Discord. By the way, I was constantly guilty over the years because I felt like I haven't gone through the forums on Commander.net,
Right.
read through the issues, and it was such a slog, and I didn't want to do it. But with Discord, I can, like, at the end of the day,
I think the Discord server
scroll
makes
through
it.
for 15 minutes and
Yeah.
take a look and see what people are saying. It's been really good. So,
Yeah, the Discord server makes it a little bit easier to me. It doesn't, on a forum, an issue, a thread can stay up, and you can go back and reference it.
Right.
The lifespan of the data is much longer, but the Discord server, especially like we have them separated off into different channels, so you can talk about different things. I think it provides livelier conversation, and it's been a great tool so far. I wish we would have stood it up even earlier, but
Yeah, no kidding. I didn't even know about him. I didn't even
Right.
really know about Discord until in the last year. I mean, and it's been an epiphany on a lot of levels. I use it for so many things now. I mean, especially being in COVID, it's become even more of a tool. But even before that, I was like, wow, this thing is just amazing. And I find the Discord discussions to be, because they're happening, more real time than a forum thing, and they seem to be a little less anonymous than a forum. I just find them to be more pleasant.
yeah, I
Like,
hadn't thought of that, but you're right. They can get less toxic because, well, somebody can't throw crap on the wall and let it slide down.
Right.
There's an
Because-
immediacy to the response to it.
right, immediate response. And I'm not sure, you might know this better than me, but I don't think we've had a major toxicity issue since we stood up our server.
We have not.
Right. I mean,
Our team of moderators, led by the inimitable Logan Ish,
Oh.
has been great about keeping things clean. Now, there are also bots that
Sure.
will reject certain language.
Whatever the solution,
Yep.
it's more pleasant. And
Yeah,
therefore I want to go there.
And right there was a time before Cryogen came to MTG. Oh, I'm blanking what it used to be.
The old fort. Oh, to our thing?
Before Nexus.
Yeah, for Nexus.
Whatever MTG Nexus used to be.
Oh, so it was Salvation?
Salvation. When it was a terrible place. There's just no reason to go there and engage in the discussion. And a great moderator stepped in and set a standard, and put together a team, and it became a place that you'd want to go. And that's, you want online communities to be welcoming, because famously the internet can be a little harsh.
Yes.
But we were talking about, we were talking before
We're talking about the future of the art.
the future of the RC. Certainly, a future RC can't be a block like me, you, Toby, and Gavin are.
Are you sure?
I mean,
Here's a question for you. Why are you, me, and Toby and Gavin such a tight-knit block?
well, we had worked together a fair amount before the RC
Yeah,
ever
but
existed.
I think it was being on the RC that made it tight. It goes
Okay.
back so far; it's hard to see the perspective. I think it's hard to see the
Right.
perspective. But I think it had everything to do with it. Now, it may have been more naturally grown because we were on the road and seeing each other all the time, and not seeing each other every week. And when you moved down to Florida, and Toby and I started coming down a lot, that had nothing to do with our work. We started
Right.
coming down because we want to hang out with you. But I think that I don't know that it can't be that tight knit again. If one or two of us left, I don't know. I mean, who knows? You might be right. You might be wrong. Is it good? Bad? Will it work as well? I think it could work as well. I think what we have going on works really well. I think that there's a lot of shortcuts that we all four have with each other because we know each other so well that I think any discussion we have doesn't need to go on forever because, I can almost predict the responses sometimes in the meetings. You'll say something, and I'm like, Toby's about to say this, and then Toby says that, and I'm sure you guys do that with me. Oh, now Scott's going to say something like blah blah blah, and there he goes. So I feel like our way of dealing with issues among the four of us has been so shortcutted that it's really easy. But you can fall into traps doing that too. And that's one of the reasons I appreciate the CAG, because we don't deal with any issue on our own. We always bring them to the CAG, and then we get way different perspectives. And I know there's been many times since we've stood up the CAG that I've gone, oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. Yeah, maybe they're right.
Well, one of the strengths of the CAG is that while the RC operates as a body, the CAG operates as a group of independent advisors. We don't go to the CAG and ask for a group CAG opinion.
Right.
We go to the individual members of the CAG, usually at the same time, and go, hey, so we're going to get 6 different answers, and it's exactly what we want, is all 6 answers.
Right. And the thing that I am the most impressed about is that when you're in a group of people that big, sometimes if you know you're going to have an unpopular opinion, many people tend not to say it.
Right.
And I think that for the most part, we have not seen that on the CAG. We have had people that are definitely, they are the only one that thinks what they're about to say of the 11 of us.
Right.
But they do it anyway because they're like, you know what? From my perspective, this is what I think should be true. So they've been a wonderful group of people.
Well, that's what you want in an advisor, right? You want people that are not afraid to disagree, and we don't need people to agree, right?
We don't need a bunch of yes men.
Right.
We need people. We need a bunch of people that tell us, one, what are we doing wrong, and two, where should we, what should we change?
What do you think
better for everybody?
The change that needs to be made is?
Yes.
I think the thing that I thought about as we're having this discussion is that a future RC, whether it includes additional people or some complete turnover, doesn't need to operate the way that we do to operate well.
Completely true. Yeah.
It can operate. It can be its own thing. Like Commander is the format that's going to be the best it can be on its own terms, and a future iteration of the RC doesn't necessarily have to operate the way we do in order to be successful.
No, and I think there's good examples that you could give, particularly from leadership in the judge program. Like you were there a long time as leadership in the judge program, and it did not work the same way all the time.
No.
It changed constantly.
Yeah.
We've had an amazing run of the same number of people on the RC. I'm coming up, I think, on 10 years if I'm not already there.
Yep.
And we've only lost people from the RC since then.
Yeah, that's
the RC. I know a lot of people don't know the RC used to be bigger.
Yep.
It was. I think since I've been on it, it was as big as 6.
6, yeah, because we had
when we added Devin. Yeah,
we added Devin,
which was in 2012.
Because Alex was there and Kevin was there at the same time.
Yeah.
But then we lost Kevin dropped off, and then we added Devin. So yeah.
So we've only lost people. We did not. I mean, I think a lot of people would say, "Why didn't you replace?" And we're like, we didn't feel we needed to.
Yep.
And we were. I think at the time, I don't know if we did it consciously, but maybe unconsciously, we're like, maybe 6 people is too big. And so we never lost people like they called us up one day and said, "I'm not doing this anymore."
Right.
It didn't work that way. It did not work that way with Kenny. It did not work that way with Devin.
Yeah.
They just kind of stopped engaging.
Yeah.
And then eventually we kind of wrote the email to them saying, by the way, you're done. So I don't think that it will be like that ever again.
Sure.
Considering how public it is now.
Right.
I think now if you or any of us were to leave, I think it would be very formal. This person is leaving. This person is stepping up and taking his spot. And I think it would be something we'd be talking about for months.
Yeah. The real thing is that the person has to be has to be a right fit, but they don't have to be the same. As a matter of fact, as far as I'm concerned, they can't be the same. Like, more of what is already there is not the right answer.
Correct.
Diversity in the future is the answer for the RC.
No, it absolutely.
Whether that's diversity of background or thought or demographic, it's got to be. Again, we've got the over 50 white guy vote, right? We don't need that anymore.
There's three of us. Yeah, there's three of us now.
Yeah, and yeah, the RC is collectively more than 200 years old.
Yeah.
Now, some of us are bearing more of that burden than others.
Oh, stop it.
And
by what? By 9-year difference between you and Toby? Come on.
Yeah. Oh, only 9 years.
Yeah.
And then Gavin the pup.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm a big believer that leadership is responsible for replacing itself in the long run.
Yep. You've said
you know,
that.
I'm not planning on going anywhere anytime soon.
Every time you've talked about leadership, I've heard you say that. So I've heard you say it at least 100 times.
Yeah, it's because it's one of the most important factors, I think. On creating an institutional memory that individuals, that cults of personality even aren't the important part.
Right.
It's sometimes it's hard. It's hard to it's hard to replace people. I was having a discussion. I was having a discussion with somebody this week. They're like, so let's say you step down, who would step into your role? And I'm like, that might be a tougher conversation. Not that either any of the three of you aren't capable, but you need both capability, disposition, and time. And I don't think any. Well, the reason that I've sort of developed into the spokesperson role is because I was the one available to do it, and I was the one willing to do it.
Yeah, so I mean, if you left, it would be interesting because how do you find somebody that cares about Magic and has a lot of the leadership skills that you have, and has the time,
Big factor,
and doesn't need to, have to worry about a mortgage to pay by having a full-time job. It's going to be tough. I think that. It would be. I think the dynamic would be very, very different. But it would take. It would take a while. But I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I'm going to keep doing this as long as it interests me. And right now, Commander interests me more than ever.
Yeah.
So I don't plan on going anywhere.
Yeah, I despite threats to that to that idea, I'm not planning on going anywhere anytime soon either.
Yes.
So. Get out of here. And I will correct you. I do have a full-time job. I am a full-time Magic content creator.
That's fair. That is true.
But yes, but certainly being on the RC is part of that content creation. So
yes,
so it feeds. We've also talked about the fact that the CAG is not a stepping stone to the RC. That
it is not.
That we would be stupid to not look at the CAG, but it's not the CAG isn't the minor leagues for the RC.
It is not. Yeah, I would not say it is the minor leagues where if you're going to go get your next starting pitcher, you go down to your AAA club and pull them up. Is it likely that that's going to happen? Probably. But I think it's just as likely that we would step outside. And I think it would depend on which of us left and when they did it. And, we haven't talked in a long time about whether 4 is the right number for the RC, but I think it's also possible that we would just decide, we're not replacing anybody. We just need to add somebody else for whatever reason. I think that the CAG, it will absolutely be the first place we look if one of us would step down. But it's not it is not 100% likely that is where that person would come from.
Yeah, I agree. I would hate to ignore a great candidate just because they're not currently a CAG member.
Sure.
And again, going back to that willingness and disposition, there are people on the CAG that have pretty full-time gigs right now.
Sure.
And just like, I'm sorry, I don't have to. How much time is involved? And it's more than I'm willing to give. And I think that might have been one of the things that some of the people have left didn't realize, especially as we were on the ascendancy of the popularity of the format.
Right.
That sure, in 2007 it wasn't so much of a time commitment.
No.
In 2020, man, it really is.
It really is.
Well, this conversation about how we're going to shape the future is going to continue to happening, and it's something that we are thinking about more than ever. Rest assured that we will have that always in the front of our minds. But let's you and I stretch our legs a little. The folks that come on this show have been playing the format for a long time. We run cards that some newer players might never come across. We discuss those cards each week in our feature segment, Hidden Gems. What nonsense do you have for us this time, Scott Larabee?
Well, I was up last night thinking, what am I going to do here? I was going through my decks, looking for things. I was using EDH Rec to see how many, what percentage of all the decks in EDH they appear in. I certainly don't want to show up and suggest a hidden gem that's in 20% of all decks.
Right.
Because that's not hidden. And I thought I was on to what I was going to do, and then at the last minute, I changed my mind. So a lot of people know that I am the enchantments guy on the RC. Everybody's got their favorite card type or thing. Toby's is tokens. Mine is enchantments, and so when I was skimming through my Arixmethes deck, I thought this is the one I need to do. My pick is the fine Arabian Nights Aura Fish Liver Oil. Yes, I run fish liver oil in a deck, and whenever I play it, and Sheldon can back me up here, whenever this card hits the table, a discussion begins. It's a fun little card. In my Arixmethes deck particularly, I enjoy it because I want to be able to give other creatures that don't already have Island Walk from time to time, and there are not a lot of cards in the history of Magic that can do this. So this one is a fun little ditty. I looked up the stats last night. It exists out of the approximately 200,000 decks that are on EDH Rec. It is in exactly 63.
Yeah, that
very
is
well below 1%.
That's definition of hidden, right?
That is very hidden.
I mean, it costs a blue and one.
I know it's an odd choice. I know it's very situational, but think about it. If your local meta has a lot of blue in it, what's wrong with popping that on the biggest, baddest boy you've got and going to town?
Yeah, no, I think Island Walk is just like totally valid because blue is a strong color. A lot of people are playing it, and a lot of times it's kind of a control color. So a lot of people are playing it in decks that are going to try to control what you do, especially deal damage to them. So getting through Unbound is a great idea. Yeah, I like this pick, and it's really themey when you put it on Arixmethes.
Right, and when I put it in my Sea Monsters deck, it works anyway.
Yeah,
right. And everything. I mean, I don't.
So suggested by our friend Anton, who you all know as All Hail Bolus on the Commander RC Discord and on Twitter, I'm gonna go with Backdraft, not the format.
Yep.
Backdraft is an uncommon from Legends. It's an instant for 1 and 1 red. Choose a player who casts one or more sorcery spells this turn. Backdraft deals damage to that player equal to half the damage dealt by one of those sorcery spells this turn, rounded down. And I noticed that you put in our show notes that it's in 7 of 200,000. So fish liver oil is 9 times more popular.
9 times more popular
than Backdraft. Now,
and two sets older.
Yeah. Now, if you're thinking, Yeah, right. If you're thinking, well, I need to wait till somebody casts a big fireball for this to be good. Not really. So, one of the things Backdraft does, it looks at the damage that sorcery did. So, you don't need to wait for a fireball. You need to wait for a blasphemous act.
Or a chain reaction.
Then we're talking. Chain reaction.
It's the amount
this
of
is the
damage.
kind of thing. Now, it's really situational.
To a target.
Yeah. It's really situational. It's the kind of card that I think is sometimes going to just be useless in your hand, but the times that you get it, play it at the right moment, it's going to be one of the most memorable things that ever happened. You know, Blasphemous Act the board. Like, how many creatures were out there? Oh, 20. All right. What's half of 260?
Right. It's I win is what it is.
Right. All right, well, we've delved into the mines, dug up a few hidden gems. Here's hoping that our exploration has inspired you to do a little spelunking of your own. So in the finale of the second half of this series, we're going to have a discussion about the RC's style of play. Now, as Scott pointed out earlier, we play more regularly these days than we ever have. It's, Gen Con last year was the first time that we'd been together, all the four of us had been together in the same physical space in years. In 7 years or something.
I think we figured out it was since Worlds 2011.
Yeah.
And so it'd been 8 years.
It had been 8 years, yeah.
At that time, yeah.
Now, we stream twice a week.
Right.
We play Thursday evenings, we play Sunday afternoons. So it's pretty fair to say that we've developed an identifiable environment. People often misuse the term metagame. I guess my first question is, do you think we've developed a metagame?
I don't know. I think so. I don't think we've consciously done one, but I don't think metagames are ever very conscious, especially when it comes to this social level of play.
Mm-hmm.
It's tricky. I have definitely experienced different metagames in Commander. Certainly when I would come down and play in Florida at local store compared to what I was playing, say, in the evenings on the Pro Tour, I felt that the metagame was very different.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly when I go to the command zone at the larger conventions, the metagame is extremely different because it's so varied. But I have not found that, for instance, the local store that I was playing at before we went into COVID versus what we're currently playing on the stream is all that different. I feel like my decks are comfortable to play against whatever I'm playing against. And sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. But I haven't felt like if it were up to me, I would tell somebody you can't play that deck.
Right. Well, I think the thing that differentiates an environment from a metagame is the shifting nature. Right.
Sure.
If we've settled into an environment and don't really adapt to the environment that much, then I don't really think there is a metagame.
Sure.
But if I'm building a new deck and I throw in one more piece of enchantment removal than I might otherwise have because I know that you love enchantments, now a metagame has begun.
Yes. Fair enough. So it's interesting. When we first went into quarantine and I started playing on Olivia's stream, and then we set up this stream. I had 5 decks at that time that I was playing regularly. I have decommissioned 2 of them, and I've added 4. And I would say recently, in the last few weeks, I've started to build more decks because I felt like I was playing the same decks so often that I'm not going to say I was getting bored with them, but I thought you guys might be getting bored with me. Like, oh, Scott's playing his Erixmathes again. Scott's playing his Daxos again. And I wanted to play, and then, some of the decks just don't play well, and that I have, at least one, doesn't play very well in an online environment like this. There's too much digging into other people's decks, and that's not something I want to do. But I wanted to try a few things out. I wanted to mix it up. I mean, you play every week, and you have so many decks literally built, not just designed, but built.
Yeah.
that you could go half a year without repeating if you play twice a week.
Yeah, no, I have 55 built now, so.
Right, I can't, and if I'm on streams 3 days a week playing 2 decks a week, I'm going to repeat, in a week. So I wanted to have some more options. I'm still working on other decks. I build one deck and it leads to, and as I'm looking for cards for it, I see a card and go, ooh, I'm going to park that one off the side. That might be cool in something else. And yeah, so I've decided to build more decks just because I wanted to have some different games than, for me personally, than I've been having. Like some of these older decks you have, they're very much an autopilot. I put the lands out. I know which creatures are going to come out. This creature comes out, therefore I need to do this. This creature needs it. There it comes out, therefore I need to do this. So I wanted something that would kind of test my brain and keep me sharp and, have to think a little more about how I'm going to play it out.
Well, the question becomes here, what's your thought process when you're building a new deck? Is how much of a consideration is that you're playing with me, Toby, and Gavin regularly thrown into your build choices?
0.
Okay.
Absolutely 0.
Because we're terrible players?
It's not because you're terrible players. I don't think you guys play any particular style more than another. I mean, Toby's decks are all over the place. Hell, Gavin's decks are all over the place. Yes. I've played against all your decks, and I don't feel like there's any. I don't think there's any one card I could put into any deck that I go, this is the card I have in here because Sheldon's playing. Because because your decks are pretty varied, and that's something I'm also trying to do as well. Is within certain contexts vary up the styles of play. My decks have for a long time tended to be very, set up a defense so I can grind out a contraption thing I'm trying to do, and I wanted to do something a little different with some new decks, which I think I've done in some cases. In some cases, I've done more of the same, but I wanted to have a few different play styles so that if I were in a particularly aggressive mood one day, I can play a particularly aggressive deck, and if I kind of want to sit back and do my tinkering, I can. Plus, it keeps me sharp. If you just are constantly playing the exact same style all the time, then I think you can get a little lazy in your play. And so I wanted to do something, make some decks that were a little different. And luckily, some new legends came along. At least one new legend came along. Of the 4 new decks I've built, one of them is very new legend. The others are a little older, but they led to sparked some ideas and led me down some interesting paths. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying not to build the same deck I've built before with just a different commander and in different colors.
Yep.
I want to build something that's different enough from what I have in my other decks that it provides a little palate cleanser, every time I pick it up. I want to have a different taste in my mouth with it than the last thing I played.
So give us a nickel version of you said 4 new ones, like real quick.
4 new ones.
Yeah, what's the elevator pitch on each of them?
The elevator pitch on each. Marchesa, the Black Rose, was a deck that I'd had designed for a long time, and I just hadn't physically built. So this is the first one I did recently. Inspirations from our friend Keith Bogart down in Tampa, who had built a version when we were still going to Armada, and I played against it, and I went, that is an interesting deck idea, but I can do it better. And finally put it together in paper. I actually did the budget version when we did our 10 ticket.
10 ticks, yeah.
Our 10 ticket, and then I finished up with the real version. I've been playing that off and on. Got the Alenda the Dusk Rose, also a deck I wanted to build for a long time, but couldn't because, Commander Death Triggers didn't work the way they needed to. But we finally did that, and then we had a week where we said, let's build a deck where it matters, and I knew exactly that's what I was going to build, being a loyal Orzhov and a guy who likes vampires as a creature theme. I knew that was where I'd go.
Before anybody has the conspiracy theory that the reason Commander Death Triggers changed is because Scott wanted to play Alenda the Dusk Rose.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. The 2 I've built recently that you've played against both of them now, I know. One of them is Shu Yun, the Silent Tempest. When I was working on C19, I was on the design team. We were looking at I don't remember how it happened, but a bunch of us had designed creatures with creature type monk coincidentally, and we started talking about, well, maybe one of these decks could have a monk sub theme. And so I did a lot of research on what we already had, and a lot of creative research on the other side to see what we could do. We didn't really end up going too deep into that, but it always got me thinking, you know what, I'd really like to build a monk tribal deck someday. And I was sitting here looking for new decks to build and decided, I wonder if I can do it now. I wasn't sure I could. I'd looked at it before, but I thought, I've noticed that we're kind of printing monks in every not every block, but there's one-off monks that are coming out in all these sets over the last few years. Is it going to possibly do it? And so I took a look and I went, wow, there are more than I want to put into a deck. So that sounds to me like I can build it. So I built Shu Yun. I wasn't sure that would be the commander, but after kind of spreading out the options, I liked this one. It's a little linear. I mean, it kind of wants to do its thing, but it can go wide too. It can just put out a bunch of monks and have fun with prowess and do things like that. The last deck I built was one. It is Zurzoth, the Chaos Rider. Talk about linear. This deck is very linear. It is not. I wouldn't call it devil tribal, but it has a lot of devils in it. And if you look at what Zurzoth does, you'll know why. This deck is very different from anything I've ever built. It might be. It's a little combo-y, but it's not combo-y. It's not a one-card combo. It's just that, whenever you play a monocolored deck, you're going to find a lot of synergy between cards.
Sure.
When you choose you want to do something because, well, that's what colors do. So, and red, not my favorite color to play. It's, not in my top 3, but it's probably my 4th favorite color to play. And I've been wanting to build a monocolored deck for a while, and this one just kind of came along. Also, the devil token mechanic of you eat a 1/1 devil, and when it dies, somebody takes a damage, is something I've wanted to play around with for a long time. There clearly weren't enough cards to do it. This guy lets you do it because this guy can make a lot of them.
Yeah,
and really quickly.
Yeah, turning all your devils into a Mog Fanatic is pretty good.
I mean, we played the other night with you, me, and with the game that Rachel Weeks was in, and I had 15 of these devils out by turn
6.
5 or 6. Yeah.
Yeah, you were threatening. Now that was fueled by a turn 1 Sol Ring.
It was true. Yes, it was.
But otherwise, there was just so that way you got to attack for a turn or two with kind of impunity. But
yes, I did.
But after that, I think you had 15 or 16 devils on the table at one point. Of these tokens. So that's threatening close to lethal for somebody at that point. You'd have been attacking. So everybody's in the mid-20s already, and you're like, go ahead and wrath my board.
Yeah, go do it.
I don't care. So the way we got out of that, I mean, you were really threatening maybe getting somebody into the low single digits with all those triggers, was that Rachel finally played a merciless eviction, and it was merciful.
She sure did, and I never recovered.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with the style of deck, right? It can be a little linear, and if you have an engine going and somebody disrupts the engine, and the whole engine there is the creatures.
Yes.
So it's not like when I was playing something the other day, I had a Chroma's Memorial out.
Yes.
Oh, I was playing Feldergriff, and I had a Chroma's Memorial on the table. That then, because of the haste, you can restart. So if somebody wraths, boom.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if somebody had played Planar Cleansing, then I would have been SOL.
Yes.
But otherwise, you get into you can get back in the game pretty quickly. But those sort of linear red decks will give you troubles because of the same thing.
Right.
I still think the deck is kind of spicy.
Yeah, and since I didn't have the damage doublers, I had a couple of nice damage spells, but at that point in the game, I think I had 8 light left. There was no way. I mean, everybody could just kill me whenever they wanted. Unless I was going to take everybody out at the same time, nothing was going to happen. So that's fine. You play a linear deck like that, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, that game, Gavin and I have had some back and forth about threat assessment.
Yes.
And there have been a number of times when I actually am ribbing Toby. I'm not actually saying Toby's threat isn't 4. It's just it's something to say. And there was a turn where Rachel had cursed you.
Yes.
For the damage doubler, and you couldn't block Feldegriff.
Yeah.
And you were at 8.
Right.
And you were at 8. And I could have killed you a turn.
Of course.
Gavin was also in single digits.
Yep.
And what I really wanted to do, I mean, clearly I could just kill you. Gavin wasn't actually the threat Rachel was. Rachel playing Kenrith had some engines built.
She had
and it was going to be difficult. It was going to be difficult to win against, but I thought that my chances were better in 2 turns of winning against her solo if I don't have the threat of you and Gavin looming over me.
Sure.
So, and you were the one, I mean, Gavin had the annoying Defiler of Souls.
Yes.
But you were the one from where you, even, with the mana you had, and knowing you're red, and knowing you have hasty and stuff, you were the one that could really threaten, because I was pretty low too. I was in the teens.
Yeah, no, there's any number of cards that a mono red deck could draw that could just end the game or end your game.
End my game. So I wanted to get Gavin into threat zone of both you and Rachel.
Right.
Like, Rachel probably can't kill me in 1 turn, but she can kill him. So if I get you, you're already low enough. If I get him low enough, then I still have the damage doubler, because she might actually do the work and kill you, or she might do the work and kill him. And I was trying to create a situation where both of you were low enough to be in her threat zone. But then the following turn, I'm like, okay, not looking good here. So I'm just going to take my kill on Scott and see where we go.
Right, no, I'm surprised I sat there that long. I think you and Rachel could have killed me anytime you wanted, and neither of you did. So,
right. Well, and
great.
again, that's part of that's part of playing in a multiplayer environment, right? You have to really assess what value the other players are going to bring to the game, to the remainder of the game.
Exactly.
To you, if you can't operate because they're in the game, whether that's from a card they have or from your life total relative to what they can do to you, then you have to get rid of them. If they might be more helpful, obviously you keep them around the game. And of course, we have a situation, Toby wasn't playing in that game, but we have a situation where in our environment, blood feuds are starting to develop.
Blood feuds. Yeah, you want to talk about metagame. Here's the metagame. Toby and I have a blood feud going on right now, and that has nothing to do with any game of Commander, but does have everything to do with multiple games of Terraforming Mars. Yeah. It's all in good fun, folks. But I mean, Toby decides he wants to destroy my forests on Mars. He's getting first hits in Commander. So,
well, I mean, yeah, we've gotten a situation where your plants are there so that Toby can eat them.
Right. And here's the thing, though: Toby's been winning Commander games a lot lately. I don't think there's. He does it quietly. He sits back and he does his thing, and then he just wins. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going after Toby. I just decided. You've always got to decide who you're going to deal with first. And I'm like, given the last couple of weeks of the games we've been playing, Toby's the one I'm going to deal with first.
Well, I think Toby has clearly been following the idea of being second best.
Yes.
And he's very rarely the threat coming out of the gate.
Yes.
I mean, I think about our environment, or I won't call it a metagame. It's our environment.
It's our environment.
I think about our environment all the time in how I approach any particular game with whoever you're playing, right? Whichever commander you're playing. And Toby is most likely never to be the initial threat.
Sure.
So you have to bin that. Now, if you know that he's got that long game, like his Kiga deck does have a pretty long game.
Yes.
A good long game.
Yeah, it's a good long game.
Then sometimes it might make sense to, if the initial threat isn't too big, that you still get Toby low, because in addition to loving tokens, Toby does love his life gain, and
Yes.
and when you gain 23 life at a shot in a mono blue deck, you're doing something good.
You're doing something good. Yeah.
So the metagame, I think, is not about changing your decks to suit the other players and the decks they might bring, especially since we never know from time to time who's bringing what deck.
Right.
Unless we arranged it beforehand. Then playing the player once you get out of the starting gate is the way to go.
Absolutely.
And you see the board state, and you know what kind of player Toby is, or you know what kind of player I am, or whatever. Then I think you find your way through to adapting to your environment.
Yes, I agree. And, human beings are highly intuitive animals. And if you're looking around the board, and here's what I tend to do. I look around the board, and I think, who's the one that I think is the least threat? And then that's the person I think is the biggest threat. Because they're up to something.
Well, do you remember the game a million years ago at Armada? You, Shay, and I don't remember who the fourth was. And you hit him with Master of Cruelties at a not significantly late turn. Like, might have been turn 6 or 7.
Okay.
You hit him with Master of Cruelties. So he's at 1.
Yep.
And we left him alive.
Right.
And 1 is not 0.
Right. No, 1 is not 0. 1 is almost 0.
Yeah. Well, I think somebody at 1 is somebody you do take out of the game, because somebody else can do it anyway. Is going to do it anyway,
Right.
And just letting the threat sit there is not the right call.
No.
I mean, unless if they're at 1 life, no cards in hand, and no lands, sure.
Yeah. I mean, your likelihood of winning is increased by eliminating other opponents.
Right.
So yeah, you get somebody down that low, and you just take them out. Plus, sometimes players don't like to sit there and be the mouse being played with by the cat. So I don't want them to have a bad experience either. I think they'd rather just be dead than the cat. But sometimes, sometimes you can kind of take a look around and look at the decks. And any given set of decks on a table at any given moment is going to have, upside versus one of the other decks. And if you can kind of figure out that none of them have upside on you, then taking out a player might be a bad idea. Because having three people continually attack each other while you're sitting back drawing cards is not a bad place to be in either.
Good. It is indeed a
amongst
good
my
place to
favorite
sit.
games of Magic. I will just sit here and build my engine while you all wail on each other.
Just drawing cards. Just nothing to see. Just drawing some cards. Because people have told me that drawing cards is good.
Brian Weissman taught me that years ago.
Why, Brian Weissman taught you that in a time long enough ago to drink.
Yeah. Very good.
To be in fact. All right, well, we have been sitting in this chair long enough, and it's time to wrap the episode. If you're watching us on YouTube, please remember to follow, like, subscribe, and ring those bells. We know you have a choice when it comes to Commander content, and we'd hate for you to miss one of our episodes. Before we go, Scott, please tell these folks where they can find you on the social media.
You can find me on Twitter at Scott Larabee, just my name. I have very recently put all my decks in a location, so you can look at them. They are on archidect.com. My username there is RC Scott. And you can also see me at least twice a week streaming with my reprobate friends on the RC channel on Twitch.
On the RC channel, you also never know who's going to show up for a game.
That's right.
I'm on Twitter and Facebook by my name at Sheldon Menery. You can also find me regularly in many of the channels on the RC's Discord server. You can check out our show notes for a invitation link. It's free. Come join. The chats are outstanding. Please tune in to my other show, Commander Community, with co-host Anthony Alongi every Monday here on Star City Games and on YouTube, and see if you'll finally get an answer to Anthony's eternal question. On Thursdays at 8 o'clock Eastern, you can catch me and Scott, along with the other RC members, as we mentioned, on the RC Twitch channel, also now on Sunday afternoons at 2 p.m. That's Eastern in the US. That's twitch.tv/CommanderRC. Finally, on Sundays, you can find me right here writing about the best format in Magic history on StarCityGames.com. We'll see you next time on the Command Chair. As always, I'm Sheldon Menery.